GoPro footage shows unequipped Russian troops are continuing to suffer deadly defeats in Ukraine despite Vladimir Putin's efforts to send more men to the front. Russian forces have sustained catastrophic losses since sweeping counterassaults forced them to retreat in the east and south, with the total toll now estimated at over 71,000, according to Ukrainian military officials. In the southern Kherson region, as they hurriedly attempted to escape a Ukrainian attack, GoPro footage captured them mistakenly overturning their armored truck. A rare film shows dozens of soldiers quickly boarding the car as they begged the driver to take them to safety from behind Russian lines. The armored truck rushes along a highway as Ukrainian rockets rain down on the Russian forces, then unintentionally careens off the road and flips over, launching the men into the air. It happens at a time when Russia has lost the most soldiers in a single day. Ukrainian forces operating behind enemy lines are hitting supply columns and hampering the Russian offensive. Ukraine's regular army launched rapid counterattacks soon after the invaders have taken a village or town was proving decisive in buying time for the country to build up its forces. Infiltrating deep behind the front line, they have been able to ambush vehicles carrying ammunition, food, and vital fuel for Russia's tanks. Russian troops are carrying out offensive actions in three directions, namely Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Novopavlivka. The relevant statement was made by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Russian invaders are making attempts to hold the temporarily occupied areas, focusing efforts on restraining the actions of Ukraine's defense forces in certain directions. The enemy is conducting offensive actions in the Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Novopavlivka directions. Over the past day, the Ukrainian military has repelled enemy attacks. The enemy is opening fire on Ukrainian positions along the contact line, setting up fortification structures in certain areas, and conducting air reconnaissance. Russian invaders continue to strike critical infrastructure and civilian houses, violating international humanitarian law and the laws and customs of war. Over the past day, the enemy has launched 4 missile strikes, 28 airstrikes, and opened fire with multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS, over 45 times. About 30 settlements came under enemy fire in such regions as Zaporizhia, Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, Kherson, and others. While the Russians are still managing to make some advances in the Donbass region, they were continually being harassed by the Ukraine army's use of swift counteroffensives. On Ukrainian abilities to counterattack, the Western official said, they have proven remarkable in that regard. Even when the Russians take a village or town, Ukrainians frequently counterattack immediately, so the Russians have no time to bed in or control the situation, and they are immediately on the back foot again. Over the past day, Ukrainian air forces have launched 21 strikes on enemy positions. 20 Russian ammunition and military equipment clusters were hit, as well as enemy air defense missile system positions. The Ukrainian anti-aircraft defense units shot down 3 enemy Shahed-136 drones. Meanwhile, Ukraine's missile and artillery units struck Russia's control post for enemy personnel, ammunition, and military equipment clusters, 1 ammunition depot, 1 electronic warfare system, mine explosive barriers, and other important military targets. On the other hand, a daring tank attack on defensive fortifications in the Bakhmut area was caught on drone video. The tank was able to successfully break through to the defensive positions in the area of the settlement of Bakhmut and literally destroyed the trenches where the military was stationed. Despite the fact that the defenders had anti-tank weapons, they were not able to cope with just 1 combat vehicle due to the dense fire of the tank, both using the main caliber and the machine gun. In video footage taken from an unmanned aerial vehicle, which, in all likelihood, was coordinating the actions of the tank crew, you can see how a heavy combat vehicle successfully approaches the trench where the defending forces are located and fires several shots from a distance of only a few tens of meters. After the shots, the tank moves back, hiding in a lowland, which is enough to reload, and after that, another blow is made. In fact, the tank alone managed to defeat the defensive position in the Bakhmut area, although as a rule, in most cases, this ends with the destruction of an armored vehicle. The Ukrainian forces over the past day repelled Russian attacks in the areas of Vyemka, Bakhmutsk, Krasnohora, Bakhmut, Maersk, Andriivka, Pervomaisk, Vasil, Kamyanka, Pobeda, Nevolsk, Novomykhailivka, and Ternovy Poti. That's according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Ukrinform reports referring to the Evening War Update posted on Facebook. Russian troops are trying to hold captured ground and focusing efforts on disrupting Ukrainian operations in certain areas, at the same time running offensive action in the Bakhmut and Avdiivka directions. The enemy is shelling the positions of Ukrainian troops along the contact line while fortifying defensive positions and lines in separate directions and conducting aerial reconnaissance. They also continue to inflict strikes on civilian infrastructure and households, violating international humanitarian laws, and customs of war. There remains the threat of air and missile strikes across the entire territory of Ukraine. Throughout the day, the occupiers launched 2 missiles and 5 airstrikes, also employing multiple rocket launch systems 10 times. The enemy flew 4 Iranian-made Shahed-136 kamikaze drones to strike the populated areas of Zaporizhia and Mykolaiv. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops occupied another settlement in the Luhansk region. As a result of an unexpected attack by Ukrainian troops, the border of the Luhansk region was violated, and after advancing in the area of the settlement of Grakovka, the Ukrainian military occupied the settlement of Makiivka, located kilometers deep into the LPR. Apparently, the settlement of Makiivka could have been occupied by the forces of the 95th Brigade, as reported by the journalists of the Military Review publication. The Ukrainian army crossed the western border of the Luhansk People's Republic, which is officially part of the Russian Federation, and partially occupied the village of Makiivka. The enemy has already crossed the Zarabets River and is moving towards the R66 highway, which leads to Crimea. On the way of the AFU advanced to Krasnorechinsk, which is likely to become their next target, there is a water barrier in the form of the Krasnaya River. But this tributary of the Seversky Donets is not as wide as, for example, the Oskol, which the Ukrainian troops successfully crossed on a wide front. In the near future, it is this water obstacle that may become the last section of defense on the lower Duvankas-Vitovo-Crimea line, report the journalists of the publication Military Review.